Have you ever caught yourself looking at the state of the world, the conflicts, the sheer selfishness, those endless cycles of harm, and just thought to yourself, well, I guess that's just human nature? I mean, we tend to blindly accept that our destructive tendencies are permanently hardwired right into our DNA, like they're totally beyond our control. But what if that core assumption is just absolutely wrong? What if the selfishness we see around us isn't our permanent biological destiny, but rather a condition? Like a kind of psychological disease that we just unknowingly develop over time.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring something truly monumental. It's a 2,600-year-old behavioral discovery that completely redefines exactly why humans harm each other. We are looking at a lost science of the mind that strips away centuries of mystical baggage to reveal a deeply empirical, step-by-step methodology for actually curing the root of human suffering. By the end of this, we're going to completely rethink what human nature really means.
Okay, let's dive straight into this. Section 1. The human brain disease.
So we hear this idea all the time. If humans suddenly just became compassionate and altruistic, the world would instantly transform into a utopia. And honestly, it sounds like a total no-brainer. But creating that utopia right now, it's practically impossible, because we're currently dealing with an underlying brain disease of selfishness. It's this deeply rooted, compulsive desire to consume more and contribute less. Friedrich Nietzsche actually hit the nail on the head when he said, "I call a species corrupt if it prefers what is injurious to it." Think about it. Throughout history, brilliant minds have tried to design these perfect societies. Take Auguste Comte, the father of altruism. He envisioned a world where serving humanity was our absolute highest ideal. It's a beautiful vision, right? But Comte's philosophy, and honestly so many others like it, they always fall short in the real world. And the reason why? Because they completely overlook the slow, steady internal corruption of the human mind. If you don't cure that internal disease first, even the absolute best philosophies just can't get off the ground.
Moving right along. Section 2. 3 kinds of truth. Before we can even begin to diagnose and cure this disease, we need a solid baseline of reality. I mean, we can't fix a distortion without getting super clear on what truth actually means. Albert Einstein had this great standard. He argued that a truth has to be simple, logically coherent, and verifiable in everyday experience reality. Now, when you look at the human experience, we're actually interacting with 3 distinct layers of reality. First up is objective reality. These are your physical facts, right? Things like the boiling point of water or gravity. Second is imagined reality. These are shared fictions that only exist because we all collectively agree on them. Think money, borders, or legal systems. Now, objective and imagined truths are amazing for building technology and running a society. But here's the absolutely crucial point. Neither of them can solve the fundamental problem of humans causing harm to each other. For that, we need the third layer.
And that third layer is humanist truth. It's not about measuring the stars or managing a global economy. It's the profound reality of what kind of human you actually become through your repeated actions. It's essentially a blueprint for ethical living and unlocking our full human potential. And this specifically is what Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, uniquely contributed to the world. He wasn't out there acting as a natural scientist, mapping cosmic laws. His razor-sharp focus was entirely on this humanist truth to drive the complete transformation of the human being.
Which perfectly sets up Section 3, the Newton of behavior.
To really grasp this, we need a serious paradigm shift. We have to kind of strip away all that religious and mystical baggage that usually gets attached to the Buddha and look at him for what he really was, a pioneering behavioral scientist. This side-by-side on the screen is a fantastic way to look at it. Isaac Newton watched an apple fall, just like countless people had done for millennia. But Newton stopped and asked, why? And in doing so, he uncovered the invisible physical force of gravity. Well, in that exact same way, humanity has always known that people lie, steal, and hurt one another. We usually just shrug our shoulders and say, human nature. But the Buddha asked, why? Why does one person completely explode in a fit of rage while another person in the exact same situation stays totally calm? By asking that, he uncovered the invisible internal engine of human corruption.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how we have to rethink things we thought we already knew. Section 4. Redefining karma and samsara.
To understand this internal engine, we've got to completely redefine 2 ancient terms that popular culture gets massively wrong. Let's start with karma. You can basically forget all the stuff about cosmic justice, mystical payback, or some punishment in the afterlife. The actual source text reveals that karma is the immediate neurological consequence of our actions. It is a biological process happening right here, right now, inside your head. Long before we had modern neuroscience, the Buddha observed that when you do something harmful, like when you lie or cheat, it doesn't just vanish into the past. It actually leaves physical imprints that alter the very structure of your brain. It's quite literally the ancient discovery of neuroplasticity.
To put that into perspective, think about an airplane's black box. It neutrally records all the flight data so we can look back and see exactly what happened. Our brain does something kind of similar, logging every single experience we have. But, and here is the massive difference, unlike a neutral black box, your brain actively adapts to what it records. When you act unethically, your brain rewires itself to align with that specific action. The first time you steal something, maybe it's really difficult and you feel terrible, but the 10th time, it feels as natural as breathing. Our past choices literally sculpt our biological identity. They turn what starts as a voluntary, unethical choice into a hardwired compulsion. It is mind-blowing when you really think about the mechanics of it.
And that realization brings us straight to Samsara. Now, conventionally, we're taught that Samsara is this literal, endless cycle of reincarnation. But functionally, empirically, Samsara is the highly practical, observable cycle of human misconduct. It's a vicious behavioral loop where a physically corrupted brain constantly urges you to repeat unethical acts. It's just a tragic cycle of self-degradation driven by a diseased mind.
Let's move on and see exactly how this cycle builds. Section 5. The cycle of corruption.
Okay, so if we actually want to cure this disease, we have to map out the exact pathology of how it spreads through the mind. The Buddha did exactly this in a profound teaching known as the Paṭiccasamuppāda Sutta. It's literally a step-by-step breakdown of this brain disease. Let's walk through the first half of this vicious cycle. It all kicks off with avidya, or ignorance. But wait, this isn't a lack of book smarts. It's a fundamental blindness to ethical consequences. You just don't see the harm. That ignorance naturally leads to step 2, sankhara. These are corrupted, intentional evil acts. Now, as we just learned with karma, those acts don't just disappear into the ether. They lead straight to step 3, vijnanam, which is the actual neuroplastic alteration of the brain. The physical structure changes. And because your brain is what interprets your senses, this leads right into step 4, corrupted senses. Your eyes, your ears, your mind, they no longer perceive reality clearly or neutrally. Everything is skewed and clouded by your past actions.
And here is where it gets really dangerous. When those corrupted senses interact with the outside world, we enter the second half of the loop. It triggers tanha, which is this abnormal and satiable obsession or compulsive desire for things. Naturally, that clinging leads to bhava, the continuation and solidifying of those evil acts into habits, which then sparks jati. Now, jati isn't a physical birth like a baby. It's the birth of a new phase of severe mental decay. And finally, the whole thing collapses into jara maranam, the total breakdown of your ethical sensitivity, bringing overwhelming sorrow and despair. And here, my friends, is the trap. That deep despair and sorrow, it generates even more ignorance, which loops you seamlessly right back to step 1. We become locked in a self-perpetuating cycle of our own making, just spinning further and further out of control.
So how do we get out? Section 6, breaking the loop. Here is the incredible news, and honestly, the core thesis of this entire explainer. Simply understanding this cycle is the exact key to curing the disease. By mapping it out so clearly, we prove that evil is definitely not our natural, fixed biological state. It's just a self-generated loop that has attached itself to us. And a loop can absolutely be broken. It reminds me of this powerful insight from Socrates. If people truly know what is right, they will act accordingly. Breaking the loop of samsara isn't about white-knuckling your way through a moral rulebook. It's about deeply, rigorously training the mind. Because when we fully, scientifically understand the ruinous neurological consequences of doing harm, when you can literally see that it destroys your own humanity and physically subverts your brain, the temptation to do harm just evaporates.
And I think perhaps the most beautiful takeaway from this whole scientific, humanist perspective is the incredible power it gives us to actually forgive. When we look at someone who is committing a harmful act, we no longer have to see this inherently evil, irredeemable soul. Instead, we see a damaged brain. We see someone helplessly caught in the mechanics of a vicious loop. We're looking at a symptom of untreated suffering. Now, that doesn't mean blind tolerance or letting people get away with anything, for sure. But it does mean we can start approaching human conflict with deep structural wisdom, rather than just blind anger. So, we're left with a pretty profound realization here. We are not static beings at all. We are constant works in progress, physically shaping our own minds with every single decision we make. So I'll leave you with this. If your every action actively rewires your brain, leaving a permanent imprint on the person you're going to be tomorrow, what kind of humanity are you building with your choices today?
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning and keep building a better mind.